Morning, everybody. If you're new to these streams, this is where I share how I practice, what I work on, etc., etc. Now, all of the full recordings of these practice sessions can be found on my YouTube under the playlist called Drum Practice Streams, and there's 278 full streams. When you go into any of these play-alongs, or not play-alongs, these recordings, when you click on it, it actually has timestamps showing what I worked on, how I worked on it, etc. So like this one, I'm talking about how to learn how to write a solo, and then I'm doing cheese after an accent triplet grid, and then I was talking about how to prep for an audition, etc. So I like to answer some questions from people in the various chats. We've got 2 different YouTube chats up. We've got TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, etc. And when I respond to those questions, I then turn them into highlights that I use in this drumming tips playlist. There's like over 8 hours of free drumming tips on here. And again, you can find all this stuff on my YouTube channel. Under the home tab, just simply go down to the part that says drumming content, click on that header, and it shows you. Now, I'm going to be working on double stop diddles today and refining the technique. So what are double stops? Double stops when you play 2 hands at the same time. You don't want it to sound like ba-da, 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 or like a flam. You want it to be one popping sound. And if you do diddles, which are 2 strokes on one hand, then you can hear whether or not your hands are balanced, even, etc., etc. So we're going to work on that. But before we do that, we're going to stretch and massage. Before we do that, we're going to warm up. And before we do that, we're going to get motivated with some Shia LaBeouf. Oh, by the way, the practice streams you can find, just go over one, boop, and you can find it right there on the home tab of my tube of view. And if you're at /drum on my website, this is where you can find literally over 1,000 free play-alongs and lots of free content. But we're going to get motivated with Shia LaBeouf. Why do I do this? Because I think it's goofy. I want to have like a goofy kind of vibe when I'm streaming. I don't want to take life too seriously. Like, yeah, we can talk about like advanced pedagogical concepts and advanced techniques, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, as somebody with like a doctorate, like some people take me way too seriously because I have this resting face that looks like I'm mad, but I'm not. So I want to just demonstrate, hey, I'm here to have fun. Let's drum. Do it. Just do it. Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it. Make your dreams come true. Just do it. Some people dream success. Well, you're going to wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. You should get to the point where anyone else would quit. And you're not going to stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Do it. Oh, I'm early. Do it. Yes, you can. Just do it. If you're tired of starting over, stop giving up. Yeah. Thank you so much, Shia LaBeouf. We are super motivated now. We're ready to go, and we're in a goofy mood. All right, so I'm going to warm up. I'm going to warm up with the technique exercise. So the one that I'm going to use is a triplet diddle exercise. There's also a bunch of 16th note ones, but we're going to go here. Boop. And there's different versions in here. So we've got like single-double stuff, which is great for working on transitioning from singles into doubles. But the triplet diddles, there's 2 count. Thank you for the like on YouTube. There's 4 count. And then there's inverted versions of those. So your normal version sounds like this. If it's the 4 count. Now, if you do an inverted version, I'm going to play this slower so you can see how it's different. It sounds the exact same way. Except you play with an inverted diddle. What's an inverted diddle? If you take a look right here, instead of going right, right, left, right, you're going right, left, left, right. What? Same rhythm, different sticking. So you're splitting the diddle so that you play. It's kind of like a putida, except you do a bunch of them in a row. So it goes right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, etc., etc. So if you're interested, that's a great way to work on the second note of your diddles. But for this warm-up, we're just going to warm up with normal triplet diddle. Every single one of these free play-alongs, you can go into the timestamp and jump to whatever BPM you want. Let's go ahead and warm up with a nice, comfortable 160. You just click on it, and then boom. it'll count you off after a few seconds to get yourself set up. Play this a couple more times, then we'll stretch and massage. Woo! Entered on an outside 5. That's risky. Last rep. We're going to stretch and massage. So what I was talking about, though, whenever you are, like, making a mistake, if you break and you stop playing and you need to, like, come back in and show music, a lot of exercises, etc., don't come back in on a hard part. Come back in on the check. So, like, I came back in on the outside 5s. That is very risky. What I should have done is just come back in on the check, or like the second half of the check. If you're like miss the first part of the measure, then just that would have been the smarter thing to do. But I had enough confidence to be able to jump back in, and I'm not drumming with anyone else, so it doesn't matter. But when you are on a drum line and you are playing with other people, you need to make sure that you enter in without causing more dirt than is necessary, because then you might panic and then you'll just make even more mistakes. Don't do that. That's bad. Anyways, we were just warming up. So let's stretch and massage now. And then we're going to go back into triplet diddle and play it faster than we should, just to chop out. And then we will work on the double stop diddles. They're playing. Pull in, push out. It's a weird looking stretch. It's a good stretch. 10 out of 10 would stretch again. Ooh wee. And then to get out of the stretch, just go the way that you came. If you do traditional, rotate and hold here. Luis, hello. Good morning and welcome back. Also, if you do traditional, rotate and hold the other end of the extreme, but I don't mark traditional anymore, so I'm not going to do that. Yesterday, I demonstrated how you can stretch the underside of your forearm by going low on the wall and putting a little bit of weight into it. Not a lot. But today, I'll demonstrate it. You can do it on your drums or your pad. Just do it like this. Again, don't put all your weight into it. You don't want to tear stuff. That'd be bad. This is a good stretch. 10 out of 10. You have a drum lesson in 30 minutes. Nice. What are you working on today? Now we're going to stretch the top side. Yesterday, oh, that feels great. I demonstrated how you can do this on the wall. The higher you go, the deeper the stretch. You can also do it on your leg here, or you can do it here. I used to teach a lot of drum lessons. My senior year of high school for the next, I don't know, at least 12, 14 years, something like that. I taught privately. Mostly on the weekends. And It was great. It was a lot of fun working with students one-on-one. Had enough students that it like filled up my entire weekend, and honestly, it paid better than like being a teacher. Now we're gonna do a thumb to thumb. Your hourly rate when you teach privately is like way higher than it is being an educator. I don't think I know that song by AC/DC. Oh, sweet. Gonna play the drum kit. Hope you have fun with it. Drum kit's one of the things that I spent the least amount of time working on. So when I'm working on like the limb independent streams, which I'll do tomorrow morning, I'll show you how I'm practicing it to like develop limb independence on various permutation patterns and whatnot. But rudimental is kind of my number one, and then concert percussion was what I spent the second most amount of time on under protest. We're going to massage now. I wasn't like, we own a marimba, my wife and I, but it's not, I prefer the drums. No offense. Marimbas are beautiful and all. Like, it's got similar range as a cello, but I just, nope. I'd rather march. To each their own, though. Went to school with some amazing marimba players, but I only learned it because I needed to get into college. Like, I did pit for the first couple of years of high school. Was the section leader in my second year. But, like, I didn't care for mallets. I did it because I did not make the drum line. All right, now that we massaged the forearms, now we're going to massage the hand with the thumb, the palm, and then the backside is going to massage by the fingers. Man, my nose is so runny today. I don't know if, like, allergens or pollutants are in the air or what. Something. I agree with you. I like other instruments, but drums are absolute favorite. Yeah. No, I hear you. So, like, all my degrees are in music education. So, like, for my undergrad, I had to learn every single band and orchestra instrument. Every single one of them. I had to play them at least around the elementary or middle school level. And so I've played, like, every typical instrument that you get, from oboe to trombone to tambourine to whatever. And drums are my favorite. To each their own, though. Like, I know some people who really like playing a mean flute, but I modeled it when I used to teach band and didn't play it outside of that. We're now massaging from base to tip of each one of these, which is why, like, on my website, we've got, like, over 1,000 play-alongs, and they're all drum-related. Like, there's a bunch of drum kit stuff. There's a bunch of rudimental technique and chop exercises, blah, 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 blah. There's no marimba stuff. I've got behind this screen of a bunch of, like, method books and solos, like Keiku Abe and whatnot on marimba, but I haven't played those in forever. The marimba is sitting in storage. Wah, wah. All right, we've massaged. Let's play fast. So we just left off at 64. Let's play at 65, and then I'm just going to keep going until we get to 200. And then we'll get into the double stop. Technique, work. Let's go faster. All of these can be slowed down. This can go as slow as 40 beats a minute or as fast as 200. Let's go to 175. Sure, sounds great. 10 clicks faster. Can I do it? Yes. Yes, I can. Man, my nose is running today. Sweet, let's go faster. Which, by the way, I've talked quite a bit on these streams about how, like, I got into a car accident because some dude ran a red light and I just smashed into his truck, hit my knee on the dashboard, and I couldn't march my years 6 or 7 in drum corps, which was a bummer. But a good thing that came out of it, because, you know, this tattoo where, like, it starts to rain, so then you learn how to play in the rain. One of the good things that came out of that car accident is the money that I got from the car accident made it so I could actually buy that marimba that I'm talking about, which happened to be half off because the band director, like, bought it over the summer, played on it once, and was like, wait, we can't afford this, and then had to sell it back. So I got a used marimba that had been played once. I bet give Nick Cannon a run for his money. Yeah, I could be his professor. I have taught many students who are much better than Nick Cannon. He's not an actual drummer. One of the funniest things I saw about Nick Cannon when he was, like, getting ready for the movie Drumline, which, as a drumline, like, when I used to teach it, we would watch it every year. It was hilarious. We would laugh so hard at so many moments in it. But the one of the funniest things about it is Nick Cannon talked about how, like, he didn't know how to hold the sticks. And so what he ended up doing was duct taping the sticks to his hand while he slept at night. True story. Like, it's in the commentary, like, the bonuses on the DVD. So he would, like, hold his stick, and then somebody would duct tape it around his hands, and then he'd fall asleep. So that way, when he'd wake up, he'd remember how to, like, hold the drumsticks the right way. I get it. Like, it's difficult as an actor to go in and, like, portray something that you haven't actually done. But, like, it would have been cool if they hired, like, somebody who was actually a drummer to perform. But, I mean, they had plenty of workarounds for it. They figured it out. The movie's fine from an entertainment standpoint. It's just, you know, he's not a great drummer. No offense, Nick. Here we go. I left off the diddle. I'm so sorry. I know. Unsub. I get it. Now, there is a 2-count version of this. There's also the inverted diddle versions, which I talked about 15 minutes ago, if you're interested in that. Check it out. That's wild. Seems like it would be so simple. No, not at all. I've been playing drums for 26 years, and I have a bachelor's, master's, PhD in music education, and I can tell you that drums are some of the more complicated things that you can play. For my bachelor's, I mentioned this earlier before you may have gotten on, but I had to learn every single band and orchestra instrument, every single one of them. And drums is ridiculously hard because not only are you just learning one drum, but you're learning like 100 different percussion instruments. Like, to get into the School of Music for my undergrad, like, I had to be very good at marimba, very good at concert snare, very good at timpani, very good at xylophone, vibraphone, etc., all that stuff. So it's not just like one thing that you have to master. And even just like how you hold your stick, like, there's so many different nuances and subtleties to it that I can, like, talk about for hours and literally have. Like, if we go to the tips section, this set of playlists with, like, different videos, there's over 8 hours of tips on just, like, how to play the drums. And that's, like, cut down, editing out the ums and the spaces, etc. And that's still just, like, scratching the surface of, like, what we could talk about. And then we could get into the side of, like, how do you teach the drums? Ooh-wee! That's difficult. But it's fun. I like the challenge. Anyways, so we're going to be working on diddles. So diddles are 2 strokes, 1 hand. And we're going to do a double stop exercise that is great for working on it. So it's called isolated diddles. When you click on it, it looks weird, but this one does on the right, both, on the left, both, And then the composite, where you put the rhythms together instead of doing it like this, whoop, you split it like that, so you get the roll at the very end. So let's listen to what this exercise sounds like, and we will play it, I don't know, at 80? So you can hopefully hear it. Turn this so you can hear this better. So all on the right. So it's playing basically the right hand of the very last couple lines. Now it's a double stop on this line. Now we go on the left hand. But-up, but-up, but-up. So again, you're not playing the other hand. And then double stop here so you can hear them together. And now we have the composite. And then you do it off the left. Okay? Let's play it. Ew. That's why we're working on this. So again, this is called isolated diddles. Thanks for having brain rot stream. You're welcome. Don't worry, we'll get brain rot later. I'm gonna try a game called I Am Bread later, and it looks very goofy. So that'll be in about an hour. We'll get goofy. But in these streams, I'm just sharing, you know, how to practice, how to get better, all that fun stuff. So this exercise is a great one because you can hear those inconsistencies. Let's make it worse. In your diddles, when you do the double stops, if you just play all on the right hand isolated, all on the left hand isolated, like you'll be like, yeah, it sounds great. But then when you put it together, you'll be like, whoa, it doesn't sound great. So slow this one down. Let's go 10 clicks slower at a time. So we feel like, oh yeah, this is a good one. And we're gonna work on that diddle technique with isolated diddles. Again, all on the right hand. Both hands. The second note was a little too early. A little too late. Composite. Let's go slower. Why go slow? Because you can really refine your timing and your technique. If you can play slow with controlled, relaxed technique, I promise it helps you play faster. So when I was playing Triplet Diddle at 200 just like a couple of minutes ago, it's because I practice it slow, not because I practice it fast. It's a paradox. Welcome to drumming. It's weird. The second note was louder than the first. Ooh, diddle strength is working for me. Which is another great exercise under the technique playlist on my home tab. Highly recommend it. Yeah, second note is still too strong right now. You can also practice this at like a lower volume. Highly recommend doing that too. We're just going to do full strokes. I use a little bit of arm when playing this. I'm okay with using some molar influence in the playing. Some people are strict wrist or strict finger, but to each their own. That was 60, right? Yes. 50. I'm going to take this down to 40, and then we're just going to let it slowly go faster, one click at a time. Why? Because I like to punish myself. No, again, it helps with technique. Late. So again, you're filling in. That's why it's this rhythm. It's what your hand plays when you're combining it. I'm really trying to focus on balancing the hands so that they're the same height on the first and second note and match each other. A little late there. Little overemphasis on the release. Whoopsies. Yeah, so on the release of that very last note, I kind of went and played a little bit too loud. Obviously not that bad. I'm over-exaggerating, so you can hear it. If you rewind it back on YouTube, you can hear what I'm talking about. I'd like to try and narrate out these errors and inconsistencies so you can be like, oh yeah, that was bad. Oh, that should be something that I should listen for when I'm practicing. Maybe. Might help you. Here we are at 40, my old friend. How I miss thee. Again, you're playing the right-hand version of the last couple lines. When you're doing this, you just don't fill in the left. The double stops allow you to hear whether your hands are inconsistent with each other. You don't want flams. You want popping sound. It's like when you jump on a trampoline at the same time as somebody else. That's what we're going for. It sounds a little weird, but I highly recommend it. Make sure the technique you're using when you're slow like this is the same technique you would use if you're playing this fast. Don't overemphasize, oversqueeze, especially if you have accent tap stuff, like any of the other play-alongs that have that. Now that we've gotten to the speed that I want to work this up on, we're just going to let it go one click at a time. I almost played an extra note. I lost count of that when I was talking. Whoops. Here we go, 41. High score. I'm going to look down at my technique, make sure my hands are okay. Goodbye. Sorry, no 9-year-olds are allowed in this chat. You gotta pass the base level of maturity to engage with me. You failed the test. You can't re-roll. You can't scrum save. Whenever you click on the profiles of people who leave comments like that, it's like, wow, you've literally done nothing with your life. And what's interesting is some of them are my age. It's if you spent more time improving yourself and less time trying to make fun of others, imagine where you could be in life right now. Much further than you currently are. But you keep doing you, I guess. I'll keep doing me. different ontologies, different axiologies, ways of being, ways of valuing. So it's better, whoops, a little late, better with the second note, so it's not like this, where it's overemphasizing that second note. So it's more balance between the hands, which is good. I was a little late there on that attack. The goal for that last line, it should sound like you just cut and paste a single sound when doing those rolls. Ideally, you shouldn't have the second note lower than the first note. Unfortunately, I have the opposite problem because I overworked it. So my second note of the diddle is sometimes louder than the first. Try and keep it light when you're playing at this slow speed. Again, you want to practice like when you are practicing fast. You wouldn't be squeezing each one of these notes in here. Marlon, thank you for the kind words, and good morning to you. A lot more content to come in the future. See, the balance between those diddles were actually decent on that rep. Overemphasize the second note. So, hey, stop. It's not stopping. There we go. So let's talk about this. So there's a tendency for a lot of people when they're playing rolls, you might get like this, where the second note is like drastically lower than the first note. So there's an exercise that's actually, I'll show you, under the technique stuff. So if we go, actually it's under this playlist. Whoops, wrong pedal. This one. Under the double stop variations, this exercise called diddle strength is a great way to work on that. So you play, then you play the same thing, but you emphasize the first note. So these accents are 3 inches higher than the second note. So that's not like 12 and 3. It's like 9 and 6 or 12 and 9. So you'll play the second measure as, and then the third measure, you'll play it so that the second note is emphasized. And just like the exercise we're working on, you're doing right, both, left, both. So again, you don't want to just work on this stuff in isolation. You want to work on it together so you can hear whether or not they sound consistent with both hands playing at the same time. So that's what we're working on. So this exercise is a great way to get rid of these like roll habits where you sound like that. And eventually you'll be able to play a roll where the second note is actually louder. And then, if you can do that, you can play a nice, even, balanced roll, because you can control it to play them both at the same time. Sweet. Yeah, Marlon, on YouTube, since that's where you're at, the Home tab is an easy way to check it out. Just click on the header here, and then boom, it shows you all the drumming stuff. But the best way to check it out is actually the link that's at the top of the screen, /drum on my website, which is also the first link under here. And then it's super organized. There's all the chop stuff. There's the triplet grids. There's 372 of them. There's 514 16th note versions. There's 55 drum charts. There's 166 march and bass exercises. Why did I get an accent? I don't know. There's 134 technique exercises. And then like all the drumming tips and practice streams, etc. are there. But speaking of practicing, let's go back to here. And let's continue working on the isolated double stops. Using the isolated diddles exercise. No, that's not how fast I was. I think I was at 44. I think. Maybe. If I skipped 43, I'm so sorry. I know. You can unsub. I get it. The great controversy. Both hands. Slurred out that last diddle. I'm so sorry. I know. You want to have it so that the hand will rebound off. So toss it down. You don't want to have that second note where you are having to physically lift it like this. Let it come off the head. That's how you'd play it if you were playing this faster. You would not do downstrokes like this while doing a roll. That'd be bad. Okay, let me actually pause it here. So let me talk about this a little bit more. So, often I'll see drummers when they're practicing something slow, they will use a technique that is different than how they would practice something fast. That's going to end up causing some issues in the long run. So, for example, if you're playing like the thing that's on the screen right here, playing a roll, and you're playing it slow, and you have downstrokes on every one of these, and you play rolls where you're stopping your stick down here after the second note. Imagine what that's going to feel like if you were to play that at like twice the speed or 3 times the speed. So if you're playing even just moderately faster, and you're doing downstrokes on each one of these, and you're stopping low, good luck. You need to use the technique that you do if you're playing this fast. If you're playing at a moderate tempo, when I'm playing that check, I'm not stopping down here. I'm throwing it into the head and letting it rebound up. So that technique you need to apply as if you're just watching it on slow motion, just like turn this YouTube video, go to the speed and say, hey, let's watch it at quarter speed, etc. That's what it needs to look like. So when I'm practicing these slow, no matter how fast or slow I'm playing, I'm trying to apply the technique that I want to use when I'm playing fast on these 8th notes at the top. It looks funny, but I want it to rebound. Don't stop it here. I promise you it'll create some issues. Do I ever play a legato stroke? I mean, stick control is like using legato strokes in context. So, let me show you. So, and these, by the way, are legato strokes. You're just putting a second note on the legato strokes. But if we go back to here, underneath technique, boop, there's an exercise called rebound that works on legato strokes. And so this exercise specifically works on, no, let's just do normal rebound. It specifically works on the speed velocity strokes, which if you're not familiar with that, I learned it from Jeff Queen, who's a 4-time world champion snare drummer. And he talks about how the speed with which you go into the head and the amount of contact that you have on the stick will have a dramatic impact on the overall sound quality. So, for example, if I go into the head slowly versus if I go into the head fast, it's going to give you a completely different sound quality there. Also, if I have more contact on the stick, it's going to give me less sound quality because I'm absorbing the sound in my hand. Then if I relax it and use the same height, you can actually change the volume of your sticks just by the amount of pressure you have on here. So legato stroke you can use with this, but it puts it in context where you're also working on rhythms. So I used to do this with like drum lines, and like tenors would do it with like, different crossovers and stuff while working through this. So like every note would be switching to open hands crossover, open hand crossover, and it'd sometimes switch like right hand, left hand for the crossover. But this is a great way to work on it. But stick control, since I mentioned that, is also putting it in context. So if you do like advanced stick control with filler, which is one of my favorite stick control variations, this exercise, when you're playing it, these are legato strokes. Etc. It's just putting in context. Just sitting there and only working on 8 on a hand at this point is not super relevant for somebody like me who's been playing for 26 years. But when I first got lessons with Jeff, that was a long time ago, over 20 years ago, something like that. It's like my junior year of high school, senior, something like that. I don't remember. It's a long time ago in high school. He had me work on some legato strokes, and I spent like several hours just like sitting there and really refining it. So yes, you can work on that, but I prefer to work on it with like accent tap stuff. So like there's a bunch of accent tap exercises that are great for it. I prefer to work on it with stick control or like exercises like rebound. But if you go to the accent tap, there's some really good ones in here that are good for that. So yeah, you can just do it in context. There's a problem with like some people when they work on drumming stuff, it's so in isolation that you don't actually put it all together. And so it's the combination that screws things up. Like, yeah, you can play rolls fine and you can play flams fine, but then when you combine them together, then it sounds like something that even your grandma would know that's dirty. So context is important. Let's go slow. Again, we continue to work on it. But yeah, Corey, good question. But these are just 2 cents from somebody who's been doing it for a while. I have some contrary opinions than some other instructors. But my background is music education. So I like to focus on the learning side of things. And I overemphasize and overanalyze like how to actually improve from a learning and teaching standpoint. And having taught thousands of students, every grade, kindergarten through doctoral student, I think about what's best for different age groups and whatnot. So if you were to ask me that question for like, what would you do with a 3rd grader versus somebody getting like a master's in percussion performance, I'd give you a different answer. So a 3rd grader who's never played before, sure, you can work on legato strokes. It's not super relevant for the master's student though. Most likely. So what do I work on to get better? Oh, well, I've actually got quite a few videos that talk about that. I'll show you real quick. It's a quick answer. So since they're on YouTube, I'll just show you on here. But this also applies to my website, which again is linked up there. And any of the videos that say like members first, that just means early access. There's 165 of them currently scheduled between now and like mid-January or something like that. But what I recommend first is this. Technique exercises. This is a reason why this play along playlist is first right here. The drumming tips one is here because when people come into these streams and like ask questions, and then I say like, hey, you can go here and this will answer your question and help out, blah, 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 blah. So the technique exercises spend like the majority of your time, probably like 50% of your time working on just the technique stuff. Then 30 to 40% of your time spend it working on grid variations. There's 372 triplet ones and 513. I think it's actually 14, but anyways, 16th note ones. And then like the remaining 10 to 20% of your time, work on chop exercises. So the grid variations, if you do like grid with like rudiment on 1, like let's see, there's so many of them, which is why there's like other playlists for just flam drags, just cheeses, etc. If you do like cheese on 1 and just work on this one, because it goes from 40 to 200 beats a minute, start at 40, and then just like slowly work it up. This is working on your technique and whatnot. So what I'm really recommending is spending between like 80 to 90% of your time working on technique exercises. So like yesterday's stream, I hadn't drummed in several days, so I just like worked on chop stuff. But for most of these streams that you can find, like if you look in the timestamps of like how I actually practice, like let's go back to, okay, so this one is relaxing my 5-stroke roll timing. Okay, so what exactly did that look like as somebody who's been playing for 26 years? You're probably like, oh, you're probably playing like really fast. Well, if we look here, we're making fun of Shia LaBeouf right here. But if we go into this 5-stroke roll timing, I'm playing at 40. And let's go ahead a few minutes. Okay, I'm at 41 right here. Okay, now I'm at 44. Okay, now we go over a bunch more. I'm at 48. Now I'm at 52 beats a minute. The majority of this stream is spent refining things slowly. This is what you work on to get better. So I could sit here and play fast all I want, but I'm not going to get better at doing that. So spend the majority of your time, again, 80 to 90% of your time working on technique stuff. 50% of it, work on the technique-specific exercises. There's over 100 of them. And then the grid variations are great technique exercises to work on, and there's like 900 of those. And then 10 to 20% of your time work on chop exercises. If you spend like the last 5-10% of your time practicing playing faster than you currently can, that'll help with like speed and endurance and whatnot. But in general, the majority of what you should do is like practice slow. So this is what I work on. Yeah, like all these technique exercises are stuff that I taught. Again, so I've taught every grade, kindergarten through doctoral student. The stuff that I'm like teaching you here and that I'm actually doing is the same stuff that I like have taught students like across the grade span for a variety of different reasons. So it's all about the basics. Yeah, we could sit here and work on like yesterday's 5/4 like Velvet Night shopping spree. That's a lot of fun. At the end of the spree, at the end of this stream, we will chop out with something just to have fun with it. But the majority of my time is spent refining stuff slow. Can you ask an offensive question on drumming? Oh, that's interesting. Sure. I don't know what would be an offensive question related to drumming. I get a lot of offensive questions related to, you know, my baldness. Oh, YouTube's actually cutting it off. I can't actually see it all. Oh, why is DCI drumming so unmusical? Oh, that's not offensive at all. Here, let me show you. Okay, so I've got literally like 100 method books back behind the stream, and on some streams like I actually pulled it up and had stacks like this tall all the way across this pad. But this stuff, like if we look at this, next level, Jeff Queen, 4-time world champion snare drummer. He knows what he's talking about. If we look at here, this is very, please don't sue me, Jeff, I'm promoting your material. It's all one height stuff. You either play an accent or you play a tap. That's it. It's all rhythmic variations. But if you actually were to go to, and that's the same for like most everything that you're going to find here, like all these different method books, etc. It's all 2-height stuff. But when you get into actual repertoire, like orchestral repertoire, or you get into, this is the more popular one, Sarone. So Sarone is actually playing musical stuff and a lot of like rhythmically very complicated things. Highly recommend this study guide version because it has like notes from the author on like, here's how you should play this phrase, etc. But once you graduate from this is like undergrad material. This is more like master students, like De La Cluse, Kais Clariana, or the Doze Etudes. So these are like really, they're concert snare stuff. And yes, rhythmically they're interesting. They don't have like hybrid rudiments. Like you're not going to find a Flam 5. But musically, there's so much like phrasing going on in here where like you are just constantly moving up and down. You're able to play with the tempo, play with the music, etc. But with DCI, the goal is to play clean. So if you're focusing on playing clean, you want to try and eliminate the number of variables that you're going to have that would cause the dirt in the line. Whoops. Press that pedal. So DCI lines focus on 2 heights. So they're just going to do this rather than do this, where it's going to raise the accents and the taps, etc., like what you might do in concert snare, which generally speaking, you might have a grace note that is half the height of your primary note. So in concert snare, I'd be playing like this, and I would change the spacing between the grace note and the primary note. So sometimes I might play more of a flat flam. Sometimes I might play more of an open flam, etc. In rudimental, would you want to do that? No, because it's you want to have it so it's again isolating things out so that you are playing the most consistent way possible. So the grace note is always placed low, unless you march tenors and you have bad tap heights. Oh snap! So this will always stay low. The only thing that changes is your accents and taps, but very rarely do DCI lines actually play with like crescendos and decrescendos, because it's harder to do that consistently across a line of several people. If you are instead just like, hey, everybody play 2 heights only, then you just have to like, hey, keep this low, keep this high. That's it. So it's just more of a cleanliness thing, dictated by the fact that the activity is judged, rather than like trying to make things as musical as possible, if that makes sense. So it's devoid of musicality and rhythm. It can be. Not necessarily rhythm. Like, rhythmically speaking, DCI and WGI are sometimes more complicated. Well, I take that back. Like, if you look at like some of the surround stuff, like there's some very complicated rhythms in here that like a lot of DCI lines would like never be able to clean. Let me find... Like this, if we look at it, like it's like, wait, what? What are you playing? And then when you get into like the De La Cluse, it's even more musical, and sometimes weirder. But like if you look at lines like Paul Rennick's lines, like Vanguard, Boston lately, the last few years, Blue Coats and Blue Devils, rhythmically they are very complicated, and they're playing a lot of really fast hybrid rudiments. But musically speaking, no offense to any of those groups, but the one who is probably most musical will be Vanguard's line. Out of those groups that I just listed, they actually have contrasts that move up and down, and not just you play at this height or this height. So it's not a two height system. And part of the reason for that is because Rennick is actually a classically trained musician. So he's good at the concert side of things and steel pan and like playing more than just rudimental. Whereas this is no offense. This is not like judgment being cast. It's just different styles, different ways of being. But the people who are more influenced by just the rudimental stuff, like specifically the military side of things, like DCI, and who are more influenced by drum kit, typically play two heights. As opposed to people who are more influenced by concert percussion, where they will actually have some phrasing, musicality, etc. to it. So that's a very long-winded answer of like answering why is it that DCI is not super musical. It's because they're focusing on cleanliness rather than, you know, trying to make it musically interesting. But if you look back at like, there's 2004 Vanguard, they played Scheherazade, and like that you can actually find where is it? This book. So the orchestral repertoire, like that's like a classic like snare audition piece that you'd have for like getting into an orchestra, is you play Scheherazade. And so it was very musical they're playing, and they were so clean. Seeing them in the lot in 2004, they had so much volume with their playing because of how relaxed they're playing. But with Casella's writing, Jim Casella and Murray Gussick's like teaching and technique and whatnot, it just like created this perfect fusion, and there's a reason why they won high drums that year. Did I know that when you have a baby at home, it's not a delivery, it's DiGiorno? That is the most random comment that has absolutely nothing to do with what I was talking about, but I love it. Hey, no, I appreciate it, Corey. There's literally thousands of play-alongs keep you and I busy for quite some time, but feel free to stop in, ask some questions. I'll give you some answers, and if I don't have an answer, I'll say, go to this person. They know more, but I appreciate you. Anyways, let's play this a little bit more. Oh, actually, I've been going longer than I thought. Let's chop out now. So I'm going to go back to here. So again, there's literally over 1,000 play-alongs in here. These are like all playlists basically. Like if you want accent tap exercises, there are currently 20 videos in that one. Again, the members' first ones are scheduled to release publicly, so you don't have to pay for membership unless you want early access, because we've got like several hours worth of content scheduled to release. This exercise, let's play through this one. I did it yesterday, but it's like my favorite shopping spree. It's a fun one to play. So if you go into the timestamps, you can jump to a BPM. Let's start off at a nice 100. 5/4 Velvet Nights shopping spree. It'll tap you off, and then you play along. At the end of my practice streams, I like to play faster than I should, just to push my hands to play faster and my brain to think faster. So we're going to do that. My breaking point will probably be 125, maybe 130. It really just kind of depends. Every day is a different day, especially with these heavy sticks. Cool? Yeah, this is a fun one, right? Whoops. I wasn't done with that. We need to reach the breaking point. So again, this is Velvet Knight's 5/4 shopping spree. And if this is way too fast for you, I got you. You can slow it down to 20. Here's what it sounds like at 20. I could go make myself like a cup of tea, grab some snacks, go say hi to my wife. And by the time I get back, I'd still make that tap off. All right. We're going to play faster than I should, just to push my hands to play faster, my brain to think faster. Let's see if my arm spontaneously combusts at 130. Stay tuned. It was a valiant effort. A failed attempt, but we had fun trying it. Cool. This play along, and literally over 1,000 more for free, linked at the top of the screen. /drum on my website, or if you go to the home tab in my YouTube, just click on the drumming header and it'll show you that. 54 chop exercises, 372 triplet grid variations, 514 16th note ones, 36 timing exercises for limb independence. Also a video that shows you how to practice limb independence using these charts. There's 55 of those. There's 166 marching bass exercises, 134 technique ones, several hours of drumming tips like the question that Corey had. I will highlight, turn into a little reel that I will put into this playlist that answers different questions in each one of the videos. Every single prior drum stream, you can see what I practiced, how I practiced it, and then you can even find, like, here are some of the gear that I recommend, like some books, some of the ones that I just showed up here a few minutes ago, and the sticks and pads that I use. These are the sticks I'm using. They're Hardeman hammers. They are extra heavy Hardeman sticks, and they are great for working on chops. Highly recommend it if you want to build up your endurance, etc. And this is the pad I'm using, which is on top of this pad, which is on top of this pad. We have pad inception, so I can get a better height. All of that you can find, again, on my website, jaredoleary.com/drum. If you enjoy this content, it's free. Just share it with somebody else. Any of the videos that say members first are scheduled to release publicly for free. It's just early access. There's 165 of those currently scheduled to release and more for me to work on. I'm going to call it here, though. I'm going to go get ready to do I Am Bread, which is a really weird-sounding game, but we're going to try it. I don't know what to expect for it, to be honest. I've tried to not have spoilers with it, but apparently it's goofy, so stay tuned for that if you're interested in gaming content. Otherwise, you'll be plenty busy with all this drumming stuff. I appreciate all the questions. I appreciate everybody stopping by, and I hope you have a good rest of your morning. Goodbye.